Today's scripture reader is from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 4, verses 1 through 9. Please listen to these holy words. Again, he began to teach beside the lake. Such a very large crowd gathered around him that he got into a boat on the lake and sat there, while the whole crowd was beside the lake on the land. He began to teach them many things in parables, and his teachings, he said to them, "Listen. A sower went out to sow, and as he sowed, some seed fell on the path, and the birds came and ate it up. Other seed fell on rocky ground, where it did not have much soil, and it sprang up quickly, since it had no depth of soil. And when the sun rose, it was scorched, and since it had no root, it withered away. Other seed fell among the thorns, and the thorns grew up, and it choked it, and it yielded no grain. Other seed fell among the good soil, and brought forth grain, growing up and increasing and yielding 30 and 60 and 100-fold. And he said to them, "Let anyone with ears to hear listen." A holy reading to the people of God. Thanks be to God.
Thank you so much, Fran. So as we continue in our Come Grow With Us worship series, we are identifying this new season of ministry here at Vista Ridge UMC. Last week we talked about how we got here as your Servant Leadership Council has been working tirelessly throughout this past year, really diving in deep to our core values and really identifying where God is calling us into mission and ministry right now. And as we shared last week, we're sort of identifying a new mission statement. So our new mission statement as Vista Ridge United Methodist Church is to grow deep, grow wide, grow strong as we thrive in joyful community. And so this week we are honing in and going deep on what it means to grow deep. And so we are talking about intentional discipleship. So each one of our core values, faith, grace, commitment, and authenticity, now has a core practice. Oh, that's great to say we are people of faith, but how do we act that out? What do we do with that? And so today we are talking about intentional discipleship. Now, Ashley and Leanne, why does this matter? Why do you need to be intentional about discipleship? Every church has faith as a core value, right? That's what makes us a church and not a country club, right? So it makes us a church and not a golf association, right? Is that we are here to do faith stuff together. So why do we need to say that we are going to be intentional about discipleship? How does that move us into a mission of faith? Well, I want to show you a couple of graphs today. So get out your eyeglasses, because these may be a little tough to see, but I'll walk you through them. The first graph I want to show you is church membership among U.S. adults. And what you're seeing, it starts way over there on the left side of your screen in the year 1938. And it runs all the way through 2018. So you'll notice church membership stays pretty steady through most of the 20th century until we get to about the 2000s. We see a little decline in the 80s, but it bumps back up a little bit in the early 90s. But you really start to see at the very end of that chart, do you see how the green line kind of drops off? And this is true. We've noticed in the last 2 decades, in the last 20 years, really, really large amounts of people leaving the church. Now, I want to show you another chart, so don't forget this one. This is a very interesting chart. Now, if you're kind of a nerd like me, and you like Google, you can do something really cool with Google. You can put any word into Google and see how often it's been used over decades. And so you can type in a word and it'll show you when it shows up in writings, in speeches, in TV, any communication style that's been recorded over the decades, it will show how often that word has been used. Now, this chart was created off of the word disciple. Now, again, I will tell you how long this chart flows. From the left side of your screen, this chart starts in the 1800s. Okay? Google's been documenting for longer than we ever knew, y'all. In the early 1800s is when this chart starts, and then it goes all the way to 2019, so really goes to pretty recently. And what you'll see is almost through all of the 1800s, the use of the word disciple is pretty high up there. Do you see that? It goes up and down year to year, but it really stays pretty steady. And then it really declines and drops and stays down low through all of the 20th century. And then just recently, in about the last 10 to 20 years, we see it popping back up. Do you see that on the very end? Kind of raises back up. I want you to put those two charts in your minds next to each other. Church decline since 2000, the usage of the word disciple raising back up quite high from the year 2000. I'm going to read for you one more time today's scripture, keeping these two images in your mind. Again, Jesus began to teach them, and such a very large crowd gathered around him that he got in a boat and went to the sea and sat there. While the whole crowd was beside the sea, he began to teach them many things using stories. And in his teachings, he said to them, "Listen. A sower went out to sow. And as he sowed, some seed fell on the path, and the birds came and ate it up. Other seed fell among rocky ground, where it did not have much soil, and so it sprang up quickly, since it had no depth of soil. But when the sun rose, it was scorched, since it had no root. It withered away. Other seed fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked it, and it yielded no grain. But other seed fell into good soil, and it brought forth grain, growing up and increasing and yielding 30 and 60 and 100-fold. And he said, "Let anyone who has ears listen." You see, the quickest way to grow anything is to throw seed everywhere. Has anybody had a patchy lawn? Y'all, John and I, oh man, we're just out there throwing seed at everything, right? Just something green grow, right? We live in Texas. You just want to throw the seed anywhere, but of course what happens is that where it seems to find shallow soil is where you're going to notice the first growth. Because the roots get to the bottom real quick. And so the plant starts to sprout up. And we notice quick and rapid growth. I believe truly this is what happened in the 20th century with the church. Did you get the feeling that there was kind of a sprinkling of churches on every corner? Let's see what happens. Let's just see if they'll grow. And everybody offered a church, and everybody offered a program. And what we saw was rapid growth. But what happens to the seed that grows fast when the storms come? What happens fast to the seeds that grow fast when the sun starts to get hot? It seems as quickly as the people came in droves into the church, the winds blew them back out the back door. At the start of the 21st century, when we dealt as a world with major crises, terrorism, natural disasters, governments being overthrown. We've dealt with a lot as people. And what seemed to happen to the church is that our faith may not have been so rooted as we thought. One of the things my mom loves to talk about is the Billy Graham crusades, where they brought thousands and thousands and thousands of people into stadiums to tell them the good news of God, and that was never a bad thing. There are so many people who found salvation in those messages, but what happened was were they connected into a church that was asking them to go deeper, to build strong roots in good soil so that the winds come and when the sun gets hot, they would survive. The question bears asking, how deeply have we been sown in our faith as the church? I love the ministry of social justice. You're going to hear an invitation at the end today to join us for a first initial meeting of our Board of Church and Society. I love being involved in policy change and the goodwill of my community, but if I don't know why I'm doing it on behalf of my faith, I can get very quickly burned out when I see how cruel the world around us really is. I love serving my neighbors. But if I get so busy serving my neighbors, you're going to have an opportunity at the end of the service today to come to CCA tomorrow and volunteer in our food pantry. It is a wonderful opportunity to serve our neighbors. But if that is the point of my faith, if that is the start and the end of my faith, I'm going to forget my why. And it becomes hard to continuously give out when I'm not being poured into, when I'm not watering my own roots. Our why, our faith, is the catalyst for everything else. And so I want you to take note as you look at our new mission as Vista Ridge, that growing deep is on top. It has to be our priority as a church, that we are rooted in our faith so that when we start to extend grace and grow wide, when we serve our neighbors to grow stronger, we have our why down deep. Because seasons of drought come, do they not, church? Storms come, do they not? And if we are not rooted in our faith, there's the possibility that we could be blown right off of our mission. So, I did a little bit of research this week. I don't know, you may be a Facebook follower of mine, and if you are, you've seen my garden ministry. So I started to get into gardening a couple of years ago. Ashley Ann, you're not that old, I know. But I took up gardening. And I'm not very good at it, and I don't have time for a garden. I really don't. But what I have noticed is through daily taking care of something that needs my care for its very livelihood and survival, it is very important for my faith. Because there are a lot of mornings where I just want to go like, plants, you'll survive, and just go on about my day, right? But I have to be intentional about caring for these things. And it has taught me a lot about my own faith life. I can very easily go on about my life and forget to water my soul through discipleship. To forget to sing songs that have great theology in them that help ground my why, right? And so I started this week studying. I'm going to try and be a better gardener, okay? If you look at my garden, it's pretty, but there's a lot going on. And it's because I don't know a lot about why things grow, when they're supposed to grow, so I'm still learning. And so this week, I decided to study what makes good soil. Did you hear in the parable, the seeds that grew fell on good soil? So I wanted to know, what's the difference, right? Did you see Colin's cup up here this morning? He said he got it from outside. I don't think that's good soil. It didn't look God bless our church lawn, but I'm not sure that we've been throwing down the right nutrients. And so I wanted to know what makes good soil, and I learned some things this week. The first thing that makes for good soil is to have deep topsoil. You know what the topsoil is? So like if you just were to dig into the ground out there where the grass is to plant a plant, that's not a good idea, right? You're going to get like the dirt, the ground dirt. That's not really topsoil. Topsoil is the fresh stuff, the stuff that really stinks, you know, when you go to the garden store, the stuff that's got all the, you know, stuff in it. So you need deep topsoil if you're planting something new, if you're putting a seed in the ground. That's where all the good stuff lies. And it made me think as I was juxtapositioning what it means to grow a seed deep, what it means to grow my faith deep. And it means that I can't just rely on my favorite 20 verses that I know, right? That can't get me through an entire life of trial, a life of relationship, a life of brokenness. I can't just go back to those top 20 verses that I know and that be enough to grow my faith deep. I need to have a knowledge of the entirety of Scripture, the arc of what God is saying in relationship with God's people. I've got to have deep topsoil. Something else that makes good soil is balanced nutrients. Okay, so if you just have a bunch of nitrogen in your soil, nitrogen is important for soil, but if you have a bunch, it'll kill off what you're trying to grow. You have to have a good balance, a good pH balance of your nutrients. And I thought about this because I don't know if you have ever done this experiment before, but I, in college, decided I was going to get real smart with the Bible. So I just sat down every day, opened up the Bible, and started reading it. Okay, just reading it all the way through. Let me tell you about how great my faith grew. All right. It didn't at all, right? I got bored. There were stories that were very strange. I started to almost grow concerned that if I kept reading, I would no longer be a follower of God. Has anybody ever been here before? Okay, well, fair warning, if you open up and just start reading through the Scripture, it's going to get interesting real fast. And so what does it mean to have balanced nutrients as I'm deepening my faith? It means I need to be reading Scripture, yes. But I need to be also praying through the Scripture, right? I need to be meditating on Scripture, listening to music that has good theology of Scripture that it might take root. I need to be listening to teachings about the Scripture and reading in community the Scripture and the Word. This is what it means to be balanced in the way that we grow deep in our faith. Good soil has good drainage. Now, this is true, and I know this one from experience. As a first-time gardener, you know two things. A plant needs sun, and it needs what? Water. Did you say flower? Oh, okay. Never heard of that kind of gardening. It needs sun and it needs water, okay? So my very first plants that I planted, I would water a bunch because I wanted them to grow big and grow fast, okay? I wanted to reap my rewards of my intentions. And so I would just water. Okay. Not all plants, A, need water every day. B, they definitely don't need to drown every day. Because what happens is if a plant has too much water, you get root rot, right? Where the roots just start to, look at these young people that know this. Okay, y'all are gonna be way better gardeners than I am. They start to rot, the roots start to rot. You've got to have good drainage in your soil in order to grow deep and strong. I started to think about this with the very thing that I just mentioned. As reading Scripture, we get into places where sometimes we read hard stories. If we open ourselves up fully to walking through the faith of our Scripture, we're going to get to places where, did you know that there are parts of the Bible, if you read this passage and you read this passage, they actually talk against each other? Did you know this? There are places in our Scripture that actually contradict one another. I mean, what is that? And I started to think that if good soil has good drainage, then I need to be in places where I am in community talking through those scriptures, and I allow the frustration and the anger and the worry to drain out as I seek what God is trying to say, what God is truly saying throughout the entirety of the scripture, right? Good soil has good drainage. Good soil also, though, has water holding capabilities. These are those little white nuggets. When you get the topsoil out, you notice those little white sprinkles everywhere. Those are little beads that help hold water so that the plant can contain water for longer, because we especially know this here in the state of Texas, drought is coming, right? Warm temperatures are coming, and so you have to be able to hold on to water when there are seasons and periods where you cannot get to it. I thought about this a lot this week. I already extended my gratitude to you as my church family for praying for me and my family. At the beginning of this week on Monday, we found out that my dad has had 2 strokes. He's had a stroke that's affected the front lobe of his brain and the back of his brain. The one in the back has affected some of his word-finding skills. So there's a couple of, Everly Joy thinks that this is fun. So she's been using her flashcards and quizzing Papa on his words, and she thinks it's great when there's one that she knows that he doesn't. A 5-year-old and a 75-year-old together walking through the journey of a stroke is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. But the front stroke has affected his vision. And so he has lost the ability to read. And I don't know if he's ever going to get it back. We're going to go to a neuro-ophthalmologist and see if we can work on some of those skills that he might be able to retrain his eyes to be able to get that focus back. But for right now, he cannot read. Dad and I got to spend a lot of good quality time in the hospital this week as I was there advocating on his behalf with his doctors. And one of the things that he just told me was, I just wish that I would have been more grateful for the skills that I had when I had them. That I feel like I might have wasted too much time doing the things that came so easy. And it made me think as I was diving deeper into this scripture about this water-holding capability of good soil, that there are going to be seasons where we lose all ability to read the scripture. There are going to be seasons where we just can't make it to church, where we have to put it down because life is coming at us fast. But do we have the deep retaining of what the scriptures have been telling us all along? Do we have the deep roots to be able to access that life when we need it most? What's so beautiful is watching during this time my family wrap around my father to be able to remind him of what he has read and what he does know, the goodness of God. The last thing that makes for good soil is that it is resistant to adverse events. So when those storms come, when that heat scorches up, it can pull nutrients. It can pull nutrients from the places around it. So I've been thinking a lot about this as the church. As we've watched these 2 charts, as we know that the church has been on rapid decline, the question is why? And I have a feeling that we're getting a little bit of a picture of why in this parable today. Is that as church, one of the things that we have put to the back burner is growing deep. Saying that the primary focus of when we gather to church is to read scripture together, to dive deep into what it is saying to us, and to grow our faith. And so together, we are going to be doing this work. And one of the things that I love about discipleship, though, is that it is not just head work. It is head, heart, and hands. That is true discipleship. You see, if I just know about God, I learned a lot about Christianity and about faith through college when I did my religion courses, especially in seminary, as I took New Testament and Old Testament. But I'll be honest with you, if I just stayed in the knowledge of that, that's not discipleship. That's just being a good Bible scholar. means that I get all the questions right at pub night trivia, right? That's not discipleship, though. I have to take the knowledge that I'm learning, the head work that's going on, I have to let it transfer itself to my heart. It has to transform the way we think, the way we act, the way we love one another, right? And as I allow it to change the way I think and act and love, I have to respond by inviting other people along with me. You see, to be a disciple, you can be a disciple of anything, right? To be a disciple means to just take up the discipline of some type of teacher or leader. My favorite is, does anybody have any friends that do yoga? I hope I don't offend anybody in the room today, but yoga people are special. And love, it's a beautiful art form, beautiful way to exercise. But they call themselves yogis, right? And so some yogis are like real intense, and some are disciplinaries of a certain yogi, right? They study a type of yoga, and especially a type of yogi who made that type of yoga really special. And they'll say, I'm a disciple of this type of yogi, or this type of discipline. And so you'll know what kind of yoga they do by saying who they follow or who they learn from. But the difference between yoga and Christianity is that I can't just study Jesus. I can't just learn a lot about Jesus, even if it changes who I am, even if it changes the way that I practice and the way that I move. It's still not enough, because who is Jesus but a teacher? Who is Jesus but an evangelist? Who is Jesus but an invitational spirit to the table? I can't be a disciple of Jesus fully until I participate in the invitation of inviting other people to come and to follow as well. So true discipleship has got to be head, heart, and hands. And so I am so excited today, church, to tell you about a challenge that we are going to do together as Vista Ridge United Methodist Church as we enter into this new season of ministry and mission. Don't run out the back door yet, okay? But in the year 2023, which I know sounds way far away, but don't look at your calendars, it's 10 weeks. In the year 2023, which is just around the corner, we are going to read the whole Bible together. Don't run away yet. We are going to read the whole Bible together. Let's watch this video.
Perhaps the church I serve is a lot like yours. A survey of my congregation a few years ago revealed that people were longing to feel more connected to each other and more connected to God. And they wanted a deeper connection to the Bible. We'd always offered many Bible studies in the past and encouraged people to read the Bible every day. People were still longing to understand the Bible and to learn how to read it without fear or frustration. Well, that's when the idea was born for reading the Bible entirely, every day for a year, together. Hi, I'm Brandon Vega, inviting your church to take the same journey called the Bible Year, a journey through Scripture in 365 days. That may seem like a daunting task, but the material that we've put together will help your congregation make it happen. The Bible Year maps out a plan for reading the whole Bible in a year, with opportunities for daily prayerful reflection and discussion with others joining you on the journey. The program includes a daily devotional with small daily reading goals, reflections on the texts, and summaries of key themes to enrich your spiritual life. It also includes a reader guide with a year's worth of discussion plans to guide weekly small group sessions, and a pastor's guide to help pastors engage the whole congregation through worship and preaching and leadership. Weekly Bible Year videos are also available on Amplified Media to enrich your small group experience. My hope for you is that you will discover what my church discovered. Reading the support, encouragement, and new insights into Scripture. And it helps develop a daily rhythm of Bible reading that can last a whole life long. Join us for the journey.
I'm super, super excited about this. I'm super intimidated by this myself. But I'm really, really passionately excited and committed to this for us as Vista Ridge. When I was first starting out in ministry, I went to a conference as a new pastor. And at this conference, the main speaker got up and said, "Your congregation is one good brunch invitation away from never stepping foot in the doors again." Great, this is such a good time to be a pastor, I thought to myself. But I also started really thinking about what had happened to the church that I grew up in, what was happening to churches around me, and sure enough, there are many people who are no longer sitting with us. There are many sanctuaries who are far more empty than we are this morning because they got a good brunch invitation or a soccer game or something else that took the place of coming together and joining together as the church. But I wonder if we make the commitment to read through the entire Bible together in community, that maybe that brunch invitation can wait until the next Saturday morning. That we can be committed to growing deep and rooting ourselves in our faith, rooting ourselves in our why we are church and why we do this together. Because we are not just consumers of our faith. We are harvesters. We are disciples brought into the mission and ministry of what God is doing in the world around us. So you are going to have ample opportunity to join along with the Bible year. You can join along at your own speed, okay? So if that means that you can join along by making a commitment to be in worship every week, my sermons for the entire year are going to be following along with the Bible year. And so you will get a sermon based on the scriptures that we have been reading through that week if you just come here on Sunday mornings. If you want to read along, there are devotionals out in the narthex. You can grab one of those devotionals, sign up to order one of those, and it will walk you through the daily readings, and you can be reading along with us. And you can make that commitment to grow deeper in your faith this year. I'm going to be doing a Zoom small group every week. So if you want to come on in your PJs and your hot chocolate at night and talk to me about the scriptures that you've been reading that week as we dive deeper together, especially as we read some of those ones that are contradictory or take us to a place where we're uncomfortable, we can have those discussions together in small group community and encourage each other as we dive deeper. There's going to be a chance here at 10 a.m. on Sunday mornings if you want to come before worship and be in small group conversations in community. All along the way, there's opportunity for you to get involved in the Bible year. So I don't want it to be intimidating, but I am challenging you. And so the challenge for you right now is to think about it, to pray about it, and see where God is guiding you to grow deeper this year. Let's pray. God, we thank you so much for your holy scriptures. God, today I'm thanking you for the ability to read your holy scripture, for the ability to dive deeper in thought, to commune with you in prayer over what your scripture today, your parable of the seed, what it is trying to root and to grow within us, the church. God, your only response from us that you require is that we open ourselves up to the work that you would do within us. So today, with open hands and open hearts, we are saying, here we are. Here we are, God. Use us. It's in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit that we pray. Amen.